sweet mamas, welcome back to my channel, Home and Arrows, and welcome back to my kitchen table where every week, usually on Thursdays, I like to come and encourage you to cheerfully embrace the very short season of time that you have your arrows, your kids, at home with you. And today is kind of a unique video. About a week ago on my Instagram, which if you don't follow me on Instagram, my handle is simply Home and Arrows, I told you guys that I was working on a Q&A video and I asked you to submit some questions, and oh my goodness, you guys really showed up, so much so that I think I'm gonna have to break this video up into two parts. And for those of you that submitted questions, I just wanna say thank you. I am really looking forward to sharing some incredible questions that you all asked and sharing just simply my heart with you here today. So we're gonna dive right in. I have my phone filming, so I can't really use it to look for my questions. So what I did was I had them all printed out. All right, so question number one, and I printed this like really small, so let me see. How do you keep your sanity when you're at your wit's end? And really, as a mom of 5 kids, especially when all of them were even younger than they are now, right now they range in age from 12 to 6. But boy, when I had a baby to 6 years old, those really young years were especially hard on me. I felt like I lived more at my wit's end in that season than I do now. But in that time, God gave me a passage of scripture that I would really cling to, and I want to share that with you today. And that verse is, when my heart is overwhelmed within me, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And I've always tried to have that be my response to just being at my wit's end, to know that His power is made perfect in my weakness, and that when I feel like I'm at the end of my rope, I more than ever need to cling to Him and His grace and His strength. And when I'm at my wit's end, I know that in that moment, more than anything, what I need is God's strength and God's power. And so I will literally try to just stop whatever I'm doing and maybe go to my room, tell the kids that I just need some time. I have found that it's better to do that than to blow up at them, or I'll sit outside in a little swing that we have out back and I'll just take some time to pray and read my Bible. Might sound like a cliche answer, but that is what works for me. All right, the next question is, what would you say is the hardest part of homeschooling? And I think for me, the hardest part of homeschooling is the monotony of the routine that a school year brings. Let me try to explain. I think that I am kind of more of a free spirit, and I love for life to feel like, and I love for life to be an adventure. And when I feel like I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over every day, all I want to do is like pack up the van and take us all on a trip to the mountains and go camping or something. But real life does not always allow for that. And you know what? I really think that a lot of times us moms can throw around that word hard. Like mothering is so hard, homeschooling is so hard. And yes, I get what that means. There are times and seasons and many parts of our day as mothers where things just feel hard. But then I also try to get my perspective right and think about, well, is it really hard? And I think something that was really good for me was I recently went on a trip to Africa and I saw firsthand what hard really looks like. And you know that hashtag like first world problems? Yeah. I feel like that's a real thing. And when I compare my hard to like what's really hard for some people in other parts of the world, and when I'm tempted to complain or feel like my life is so hard, that really helps center me and put perspective into what I think is hard. So when I do feel like we're getting into too much of a rut, or I feel like I just need a little bit of variety, I will just call a day off of our homeschooling, which is part of the beauty of homeschooling year round. And maybe we'll go on a field trip, or maybe we'll just shake up our day and maybe not do as much school and just make it look different. And for me, that tends to help. All right, the next question is, how do you handle sibling fighting when one is often the protagonist and the other the victim? So I don't know if this question means that there is one child that particularly tends to play the victim card, but here's what I do with my kids. I pull them aside when there is like conflict, and I talk to each one individually, and I talk to each one about what they could have done better, whether they were the protagonist protagonist or whether they were the victim, I find that conflict a lot of times really does take two people, and that most of the time we each have something that we can own that could have made that situation better. And so I will talk to each child and say, well, what did you do? And even the one that feels like they were the victim, I say, well, what could you have done differently? And recently, God has been showing me that I need to bring His word more into conflicts in our house. So pulling out the Bible and saying, well, what does the Bible say about not sharing? What does the Bible say about being kind? What does the Bible say about preferring others above ourselves? And using God's word as the grounds for teaching, training, and correcting. All right, moving on. The next question is how to make parents and kids aware on what to do about bullies. Well, part of the beauty for me in homeschooling is that to this point, we've only had one situation of bullying in our family. And so stinky that it happened for my little guy at church. And what we did was we told our son, when that happens to you, you have to speak up. And I think part of what comes with bullying is there's an intimidation on part of the child that's being bullied where they don't want to speak up. And I think there's several reasons for that. One, they don't want the bully to feel like they're being tattled on because maybe that will cause more bullying, or maybe there's an embarrassment that this is happening to them. So what we told our little guy Daniel was that you have to speak up, even if it means pulling the teacher aside quietly, or you have to come home and tell mom and dad what's going on so that we can help you. All right, the next one kind of makes me laugh, and this is from my old college roommate. Hi, Kristen from She Finds Design. She asks, how do you do your eye makeup? Haha, no, I'm for real. And I'm gonna be for real when I say that I couldn't believe she asked this question because I feel like I need to go on YouTube and search makeup tutorials because I've literally been doing my makeup the same way since high school. So Kristen, what I'm about to say is coming from someone who really feels like she has no idea what she's doing with her makeup. But I just do dark eyeshadow on the crease, light eyeshadow on the lid, and I do eyeliner on the top, eyeliner on the bottom, and mascara. The next question is tips for homeschooling after you've just had a baby. Oh my gosh, the one thing I would say to you, mom, is give yourself a lot of grace in this season. Seriously, you probably hear this all the time, but taking some time off, a month, 2 months, 3 months, in the grand scheme of life for your children, say they live to be in your house till they're like 18 years old, taking 1, 2, or 3 months to just not put pressure on yourself to homeschool, not put pressure on yourself to keep the house perfect, is really not a big deal. I know in the moment it feels like, oh my gosh, all these days are going by and it feels like we're not really doing or accomplishing much. You are tending a newborn, and that is a big, huge, fat deal. And if you have to take time off, that is totally fine. Release the mom guilt. Homeschool year round that year if you have to. I promise your other kids will be just fine. Snuggle up on the couch while you're nursing. Do a lot of reading aloud, reading together. Do documentaries on TV, do educational shows. Just give yourself a lot of grace. All right, the next question. Am I doing enough for my child in first grade? In parentheses, referring to teaching her at home. Well, it's hard to kind of answer that because I'm not sure exactly what you're doing at home, but really, even if I knew, that measuring stick of am I doing enough is so vague. But I will say this, the fact that you even care, the fact that you even want to know, am I doing enough, tells me that you are such a great mom, and that you, yes, are probably doing just fine, and that you are probably doing enough. All right, the next question is, when and how do you do quiet time? Sometimes for me, intentional quiet time can be hit or miss, but I do need to find time and carve out time intentionally to just have time with the Lord. But I've never wanted it to become like a legalistic ritual thing that I end up feeling guilt over if I don't get to it that day. And so someone very wise once asked me, they said, Shirley, what is the pattern of your life? Do you mostly spend time with God? And the answer for me was yes. And what my quiet time has looked like has changed in different seasons of my motherhood. When I had a lot of young kids, my quiet time looked like praying in the shower. But in general, my quiet time looks like me curling up with my Bible, with a journal, with a book that I'm really enjoying, with my highlighters and my special pens and reading and praying. And in that, not just praying and talking to God, but really trying to be intentional to listen to his voice and to listen to hear what he has to say and speak to me. But if you're asking what is the norm of when I have my quiet time, it happens during one of two times of day. And that for me is first thing in the morning or in the evening after the kids have gone to bed. All right, the next question is, how do you prioritize your marriage in the daily grind? Now, for the last year, we've done a really cruddy job at this because my husband's work schedule changed and he has to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night and wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning. But let's rewind before this last year. And the way that we've tried to mostly prioritize our marriage in the daily grind is to give our kids a consistent and solid bedtime, and that's 8 o'clock. And you know, some of our kids are older, 12 and 11 now, and we know that they stay up past 8 o'clock, and that is totally fine with us. But they do need to be in their rooms for the rest of the night at 8 o'clock. And that would give David and I time to hang out. Next question, tips on entertaining 2- and 4-year-olds during church service. And well, honestly, we belong to a non-denominational church that has nursery and children's church. And also a lot of times my husband or I are always serving during our service. Like I'm on the worship team and he used to do media, so they couldn't be with us. So I can't really answer that question because our 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds are not with us during service. All right, the next question, how's your family going to approach dating? Do you have a specific age and rules? And I never like to put an age on something because I feel like kids are all so different, and I feel like I prefer to look at maturity levels and where each child is at before just making a blanket statement that no one in this house is going to date until they're 16 or whatever. I think when the time comes and when our daughters come to us and ask us to date, that we will assess where they are in life. And I've always, even now when my daughters are 12 and 11, never shamed them for having feelings of liking a boy. That's something that we talk about, or I'll even be like, well, who do you like now? To me, that's just not something that we shame our children for feeling, because those are very natural feelings that God designed us and gave to us. And so we always try to be really open with them and let them know that it's safe to have feelings for the opposite sex, but that there is definitely a plan and that there is definitely a design by God for how we maneuver all of those feelings. I think what will probably happen is that dates will be more like family dates. So like if you like this little boy and he likes you, well, why don't you invite him to Busch Gardens with us? Or the family's going to the movies, why don't you invite him to come hang out with us and go to the movies with us? Of course, when they're older, that will probably change and look different. Our family is not one that really will feel the need for chaperones, if that's what you're wondering. So at this point, there are no specific rules, but that is probably something that David and I need to sit down and start talking about and dialoguing about, as our oldest is 12 now. Great questions, you guys. I'm gonna hit pause right there because I don't want this video to be too long. I hope that you'll come back around next week for part 2 of the Home and Arrows Q&A. And again, as always, thank you so much for watching, you guys. Thanks so much for supporting the channel by maybe watching the ads that YouTube plays, for liking, commenting, and subscribing and sharing. It takes a whole heck of a lot of work to get these videos out to you every week, so it means a whole lot when you guys support. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye, moms.